Welcome to the ACI Airwaves podcast. Today we're diving into the state of the industrial fan market, trends, challenges, and future air movement technology. I'm John Jordan, the host, and I'm joined today by two industry experts, Sean Harrop from the US and Matt Shelley from the UK. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. All right, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, John. I've been working in air control industries now for 21 years and covered many different fan applications and topics. Fans are one of those things that everybody finds in industry that generally they don't know a huge amount about. They're just there operating in the background. And I like to help people find the right fan for the job.
Oh, that's excellent. How about you, Sean? How long have you been in?
Not quite as much as Matt, but I've been here about 11 years now. Obviously, I started in the UK as a trainee, and I've sort of worked my way up, worked over to the US location. Similar sort of thing as Matt. It's just been something that I find interesting of how many applications, how many industries we're involved with is just, it's insane.
It is
It's anything you can think of. We've probably got a finger in there, like of just saying, okay, we're doing something with that. Coming up to 11, going on 12 years now, and just loving it all the way through, really.
Excellent. So now that we got both you experts here, let's dive into the current market trends. Sean, let's start with you. What are the major trends shaping the industrial fan market in the US right now?
So right now, very topical for us is obviously, where is stuff built? Is it built here? Is it built abroad? We've actually been very focused over the last couple of years, last 5, maybe 6 years now, of really bringing as much as we can in-house here in Maine, which allows us to build everything we can in America, which helps us improve our quality, our lead times, our sort of ability to actually work with customers. We've really benefited from being able to customize where we need to. So a lot of our products aren't just off the shelf. They aren't just the same thing built over. We're going to fix a specific problem that a customer might have. That's become one of our strengths, and that's what the industry is really leaning into lately, is instead of trying to get a cookie cutter item, they're just trying to get something that works for them. And that's what we've been able to offer.
That's very interesting. Hey, Matt, are you seeing the same things over there, or is there different trends in the UK?
It's slightly different in the UK because of the connection into Europe, obviously former members of Europe, but no longer, sadly. We still have a good relationship with many of the countries and many of the different groups of fan use that you would have there from different markets. So we find we supply majority UK anyway for fans, but when we do go into Europe and other places, it's generally a very custom or very specific solution that they're looking for. And we're one of the very few companies out there that can supply that.
So customization and efficiency seem to be key drivers. Have supply chain issues affected these trends?
I mean, for us, yes, there's definitely been an effect, an impact to that, but we've always tried to stay ahead of that. We've always tried to have options. So let's say a key component supplier has changed their manufacturing method or the manufacturing location. We'll always try and have a few options available to us that we're comfortable with, whether that be quality, lead time, pricing, whatever it may be. We try to diversify a little bit. We try to make sure, okay, we have a backup plan, we have some contingencies, that ultimately we don't need to change anything for our customer, the end user, because we've kind of taken care of that behind closed doors that they don't need to worry about. And like I say, the customization aspect of it, we love those. We like doing those. So when someone says, hey, I need something that's painted bubblegum pink, then okay, great. We'll go and take care of that, no problem. Kind of like those different ones. So we've tried to stay ahead of the curve just by basically thinking ahead. What could impact us, what's on the horizon, okay, how do we get around that? And we've done pretty well over the last couple of years with that.
Matt, how about your issues with the supply chain in Europe? Is there what's going on over there?
We're well practiced now. Following Brexit a few years ago, we really struggled. It was a huge learning curve for the UK and Europe, because trade going in both directions. So I think any issues we're facing now aren't as bad as sort of like the early days of that, but we are noticing certain sort of motor suppliers and other components. Some things are moving out and getting longer. Luckily, with a lot of products, you can resource and supply a different component or a different manufacturer. It just becomes different when somebody's got a real specific need and has to use a specific motor brand. At that point, we've just got to ride out the lead time.
Beyond the supply chain issues, both of you, what other issues are the main challenges you're seeing in the industry right now?
For me, at least, for the North American market, a lot of it is to do with certifications, approvals. It's an ever-changing industry. There's always a new efficiency rating. There's always a new safety rating, things of that nature. We try to always stay ahead of those. We try and keep in mind of, okay, this is going to be implemented in the next year or next X amount of years. And then we try to offer with it. So with the North American one, it could be an efficiency rating. There's a whole new range of the premium efficiency motors about to come out now that within the next 5 years are going to be mandatory. That's what all manufacturers will have to build to. So we're trying to offer those now to start sort of slowly ramping into that. I'd say that's kind of the biggest thing, that it's not an issue as such. It's just a change. It's something new for us. So we try to stay on top of, basically.
I would say that's very similar for the UK and Europe. The difference being that we've been operating on some of these different efficiencies for a couple of years already. And the thing we're starting to see is the motor manufacturers really pick up on the higher level of efficiencies. So we've got customers now that are asking, can we source and supply fans with this particular IE rating of motor? And we're finding as well, 1 or 2 countries are also suggesting that there'll be tax breaks for using these kind of motors because of the energy efficiency and the knock-on effect it can have with the business's energy consumption, and then the green footprint or carbon footprint of the country.
So we've already discussed sustainability and green initiatives. How is ACI helping their customers in this aspect of the industry?
For me, the biggest thing that I think we can bring to the table is you buy a product once from us. Our quality is so high. Our return rates are incredibly low. Right. I actually just did one of our audits a month or so back, and our return percentage for last year, I think, was like 1.1%. It's something like that. And more often, the majority of those were just incorrect items, wrong voltage or something like that from a website purchase, an e-commerce purchase site where we had no real inputs. So I'd say one of the best things we help with is, okay, we aren't selling you a piece of equipment that's going to fail in 12 months, right, where you expect it to fail and it's throwaway and get another one. No, we're trying to give you stuff that's going to run for decades. We have countless fans out in the field worldwide that are 20, 30 years old, still going strong. And, I always find it sort of comical if a customer phones up and says, well, here's the serial number of the part and I need X spare. I need a bit of hosing to go on the discharge of it or something. Will get me something that fits. And then you load up the serial number and go, this was made in 1991. Like, wow, that's
I just
still
did one
going.
recently. They had to go back through their old computers in the UK and find the part number because it wasn't even in our current system. That's all
relatively common thing. Yeah.
There are occasions where the odd 40-year-old fan appears, and and at that point we have to really scratch our heads because it goes beyond the old computer system, and then we'll have to rely on 1 or 2 of the guys who've been here a few years.
Somebody drew that one up by hand. That's for sure.
I would say for us, for myself at least, I think that's one of the biggest green factors we can give is, we're making sure what you have is once. You don't need to buy a dozen of these for 10 years. You don't need to. Right. You're going to have this product that is incredibly well built. We really pride ourselves on our quality. That's kind of what we want to bring to the table, so that our product is still there long after everything else around it is broken.
I definitely second that. I'd say most of whatever we would see back is normally down to mistreatment. It's not down to the fact that we've used an inferior part or anything. It's down to the fact that it's just not been cared for.
Yes. And you, Matt, and I have both been front-facing a lot, and so hasn't Sean, and we've seen a lot of horror stories out there. We could do a whole episode on that.
I've seen some stuff.
Of lack of care of our product.
Yeah. But, I mean, it goes to show we have, in the States in particular, we sell a lot into the oil and gas industry. It's an incredibly harsh environment that some of these materials go to. We build some of our fans with, materials maybe 4 or 5 times thicker than you would on any other application, and they still get beat up. And it's incredible how hard that workload is. But they still go. We've had some of our stuff that, for lack of a better term, we refer to them as bomb-proof. They are incredibly heavy duty, and they'll go to the customer and they'll be put on the facility or the rig or whatever it may be in that world, and they'll just run and run and run. The point of failure is typically maybe something like the impeller might go because a piece of debris got into the fan case or something, and it might destroy the impeller after a few years or so, but that fan case and that motor and all of the other fittings on there are going to, it's pretty hard to break those.
Right.
It's pretty hard to damage them. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I've seen some horror stories, like you say, but we make some pretty robust equipment when we need to.
That transitions us into our next topic, which is innovations. What do you see for innovations in the industry within the next 5 years?
I do think energy efficiency is going to be one of the key factors that can separate out manufacturers from, the best of the rest, so to speak. Obviously, motors is an integral part of every single thing we build. Is the electric motor. That in itself is huge to the efficiency sense, but the design of the fan, the metalwork, the fan case, the impeller, the inlet spinning, all of that can have huge knock-on effects to that efficiency rating, and I see that being a big topic over the next few years. I know we're addressing it internally in the main facility. The UK already have fan testing set up. We are setting up ours currently as we speak, actually, so that we can make sure little tweak changes you can make to an impeller to make it, 2% more efficient. Things like that start adding up. That, I think, is going to be one of the biggest issues we see over the next several years, or biggest topics of conversation that we see. What efficiency ratings do these meet? How are you actually staying on top of those? And for us, it is just, okay, well, we understand the physics of how these work. We understand the mechanics and the metalwork of how to build them. What can we actually do to improve that? What new styles can we do? What new innovations can we bring to the table? And a lot of that is through trial and error and some pretty clever people figuring it out.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
What we're seeing is an increase now. So the efficiency ratings, I think, over here are a little bit different. Ours come in and they're different ratings depending on motor sizes. That has a big effect. So under a certain size, you don't need to worry about it. Any motor is suitable. Above a certain size, you need to reach a certain peak efficiency point. So what that's done in the industry, or doing in the industry here, is driving a lot of fans of a certain size over to backward curved, where you can get a high volume and a lower pressure, a lower energy consumption compared to, say, a forward curved fan would be. The issue being, a backward curved isn't always suitable for every application. There are applications you need to have a forward curved or a radial blade that will give you the performance that is required for the application.
How about eco-friendly solutions? Is that becoming more of an issue in our industry?
Do you mean in like the manufacturer sense?
Yes, as far as the manufacturing of the fans.
Yeah,
is that
definitely.
taking place in the thought process now?
Yeah, so like carbon footprint and things like that are definitely something we try to keep in mind, I think, across both sites. Even down to, can we consolidate shipments from a supplier to, try and reduce anything that we can. I think it's an important factor that all industries face. It's an important factor that everyone should be considering. And you just got to be logical with it a lot of the time. Like I say, consolidating shipments is one of the huge ones. Even down to the type of manufacturing. I know one of the new pieces of equipment we recently purchased in the last couple of years, we went with a specific type of laser cutter instead of a different one because it was considerably more economical and less environmentally damaging. That was one of our actual key considerations of it, as well as your typical price point and performance and things like that. That was a big consideration for us is, well, okay, what's this going to do? Are we going to then have issues with hazardous waste? Are we going to have to deal with any of that? What options do we have that would avoid these? I think that's going to be a pretty common theme through most places these days.
Mm-hmm. How about in Europe, Matt?
We use a few virgin materials, but it's all generally recyclable. The biggest difference we're seeing now is in packaging. So there's a big move away from using any kind of plastic within packaging. So as a business, we pack things typically in cardboard or in a wooden crate, which can then be reused. But we used to use foam inserts or different packagings that at the time were fantastic. But what we're sort of discovering now is these can't be recycled, or if they were recycled, they had to be done in a certain place. So we've moved over now to using a special sort of cardboard or paper filler in order to ensure that we're not shipping these things, products around the world where we're just adding to somebody else's carbon footprint of waste. Certain countries in particular now, we even have to monitor the weight of any plastics packaging within our shipment, so that the sort of the host receiver then has to pay additional tax and duties on that plastic.
And it adds up. You'd be amazed. I mean, we're doing, hundreds of dispatches a month consistently. You'd be amazed how much material you go through. And I know, particularly over in sort of Europe and UK, there are a lot of rules about pallets, just what material it has to be and what type of treated lumber or recyclable plastics or anything like that, which we do deal with here in the States, probably not quite as frequently, but it's something that we at ACI are quite conscious of saying, well, okay, are we using something that we can reuse, that we can recycle, or is this a one and done and throw it out? We want to try and avoid those as much as we can. But it adds up. It's amazing that, every manufacturer, no matter what you build or no matter what you're doing, you should be asking that question of, well, how are we actually impacting this? What could we be doing differently that doesn't affect our quality? It's not a reduction in safety or quality of the product, but it is an increase on sort of conscious awareness, really, what you're doing.
Right. Well, thank you both for being here today. I'd like to, Matt, can you summarize and give us like 3 takeaways, what's going on, what you think are the top 3 important things to take away in the industrial fan industry today?
I think the biggest things to take away for industrial fans are in everybody's lives, but you don't see them. And they're going to become more prevalent as things happen in terms of efficiencies and applications. But primarily because fans are probably going to get a bit bigger and run a bit slower in order to get the efficiency. So people will generally be more aware of them.
They'll be more prevalent, that's for sure.
I'll let Sean have a go at the next one.
I mean, honestly, mirror that exactly what Matt says. They're everywhere. They truly are. In every industry you can think of. Obviously, I know yourself and I and Matt have been on countless site visits over the years. And you could be going for, reason A, and on your way to that facility or the part of that facility, you see 19 other things that you go, oh, there's a fan, or there's a system, or there, they are everywhere. There really are a critical piece of equipment to pretty much every industry. There's something within every facility that needs a bit of air movement, and that's an important factor for most manufacturing processes these days.
Yeah, it's hard to explain what we do when somebody asks us, what do you do for a living?
It's the most complex question to ask. And more often I find it's more complex to try and tell my wife than it is to tell anyone else.
I just pull up the website and show people. It's like, this is what we do.
Is this the only way? And even then they think we're in air conditioning. And I have to explain, no, we're not.
Yeah, we don't do air conditioning.
You're not alone, Matt.
Right. Fantastic. Matt, Sean, thank you both for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining the ACI Airwaves podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more industry insights. See you next time.